I started learning how to cut hair. I started mastering the skill. They say you don't master a skill until about 10,000 hours. And so, I really wanted to get 10,000 hours, not knowing that's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. So as I started cutting, I started realizing like, hey, Instagram's a valuable tool. It's a very valuable tool and I need to utilize it. It's free. It's time. And so I got a credit card and I started swiping on it and I opened up my first barbershop, 3-chair shop, appointment only. And it was me, my friend Ethan, and another business owner at the time.
And that was in Utah, right?
That was in Utah, yeah.
It's not necessarily how much you know, but it's definitely who you know as
100%.
well. And so not only is your network your net worth, but you're literally one handshake away from a completely different lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've realized. I think it's more like working smart than it is actually working hard. Of course, working hard is there, but like doing all these different stuff that people would not be doing, getting out your comfort zone, which in your case seems actually more comfort.
I like it. I always like to say, get used to getting comfortable in your uncomfortable situation. Get comfortable with just being uncomfortable. Have those tough talks.
And we are live.
Welcome to another episode of The Code to Winning. Insights you will need today to seize the world tomorrow. Today we actually have a very special guest, one of the best, if not the best barber in the entire state of Utah. We'll go into in depth with that regarding his awards and accolades as well. His name is Marcus Vigil, right? Born and raised here. Recently won 2023 Barbershop of the Year as well. The owner or co-owner of Savant Barbershop. It is a great honor, privilege to have him in the studio today. So welcome, Marcus.
I appreciate you, KG. Thank you.
Thank
You're
you,
the man.
sir. Awesome. The nice thing about this is actually the first time I met and meet Marcus as well. So we had a quick get to know you. Awesome guy, genuine, very authentic. Super excited to have you on the podcast today. So I want to know, before we even start, there's a saying people like talking about, saying a man will never cheat on two things: their football team and their barber.
That's right, baby. That's right. I knew it was coming. That's right.
So I
love
read that
it.
saying. So the reason I'm saying this, my barber, and since I came to America about 8 years ago, he's actually in Orem. So what happens is, like, I have not, like, in 8 years been here, I have, like, Richard has been doing, like, my hair. Like, he knows how to trim it. He knows, because it's very, like, in Utah or in Idaho specifically, there's about a population of 0.1% black people. And with black folks, like, we have a specific form of like hair, how it's supposed to be cut and so forth.
Absolutely.
Well. And so that's why I had to say, like, I've heard a saying, and I'm sure you know very
Oh,
well,
yes.
that a man will never cheat on two things: their football team and their barber.
I like it.
So before we start, how did you start in the barbering industry?
So I started back in about 2015, fresh out of high school. I was going to college, and my uncles actually owned a barbershop together at the time, Jay's Barbershop, Joseph and Jay. And I would go in there and get haircuts weekly, every 2 weeks. If I'm skipping school, skipping class, quick lunch break, I would go in there and get haircuts. And one day he asked me, he's like, "Hey man, would you consider barbering?" And I'm like, "Look, bro, like this stuff's not for me. I gotta get my education. I gotta make sure I dial in." And he says, "What if I get my instructor's license and take you under my wing?" And I said, "Look, man, that's a big step for me. I don't know if I can do such." And, after about 2 or 3 haircuts, he kept on jabbing at me. "Hey, you should be my apprentice. You should be my apprentice." And so next thing you know, he got me some clippers, and the rest was history. I went under him as an instructor. So no college, no barber college, no Paul Mitchell, none of that, nothing like that. I just learned strictly in the barbershop and exactly what the barbershop entails. So at a really young age, I got to actually see firsthand business. It wasn't just cutting hair. He would take me around the block. He would show me how to, drop the till, add the till, take the money to the bank. He would make me run to the shop around the corner to give him some pomade, take the money in, and return it. And before you know it, I started learning managerial tasks, cleaning the shop, sweeping up the hair, nothing to do with hair cutting. And then 250 hours went up, and he's like, "Hey, go and cut that guy's hair." And I said, "Whoa, bro, I need to learn how to cut hair before I can just cut the hair." He says, "Nope, grab the clippers and just start cutting." And I said, "Dude, I only learned how to take money in, give money back. I only learned, how to sweep up, how to clean tools, how to greet people, how to answer the phones, how to book an appointment, how to de-escalate escalating situations, how to talk people off the pedestal when they want to fight somebody because their haircut got messed up. Before you know it, I was a manager before I was a barber.
Wow.
And then I started cutting hair. So I learned all the manager stuff in a shop way before touching the clippers. When I started touching the clippers, that's when things kind of like, I'm cutting hair and I hear the phone. Oh, hello, Joseph's Barbershop. How can I help you? Right. And I'm still cutting hair. And then next thing you know, I'm like taking out the trash, but then my appointment's coming in and then I'm greeting people. Welcome. How are you? Do you have a walk-in or are you an appointment? Before you know it, he taught me how to run a barbershop 250 hours into my apprenticeship. I had to gain 1,250 hours before I can go and test. And I had to test just like the barber school would, or just like any other college would. I would have to, do a theory test and a practical test. And so I passed those first try. And then next thing you know, I was a licensed barber within in his shop.
Oh gosh, man, I love that. And so I think you also did mention, obviously you didn't go to barber school, and do you feel like having that sort of experience being thrown directly into the wolves makes far of a bigger difference rather than going directly to like just school?
Absolutely, 100%. I see a lot of new barbers come out of barber school, and their skill sets and what they learn and everything. And I'm just glad that I got thrown to the wolves to return the pack as a
100%.
wolf. I really do think that was beneficial. Like teaching my daughter how to swim, and I'm just gonna throw her in the pool.
Have you seen those videos on Instagram?
Yes, man.
And it actually does work.
Dude.
They have a natural instinct to just try and like float and just
That's
like
it.
swim,
That's it. Yes.
So speaking of that, like now your journey from starting barbering in around like 2015 to right now eventually co-owning like, Savant Barbershop. Can you explain like the journey in between owning a specific shop from when you started as well?
Absolutely. The journey was long while. I started learning how to cut hair. I started mastering the skill. They say you don't master a skill until about 10,000 hours. And so, I really wanted to get 10,000 hours, not knowing that's going to be 5 years from now, 10 years from now. And so as I started cutting, I started realizing like, hey, Instagram's a valuable tool. It's a very valuable tool and I need to utilize it. It's free. And so I started networking on Instagram, started following people, commenting on stuff. And next thing you know, they're like, hey, you want to come out to this convention? And I'm like, oh, yeah, I do. Let's do this. They're like, hey, get your plane ticket and come out. We'll get you a booth and you can come cut right here. So, I traveled around the world, Modesto, California, Colorado, Vegas, Connecticut, Miami, New York, all around the world, just networking with the big guys, the big dogs, and just trying to understand what they do to get better. And then next thing you know, there was a point in time where I kind of had to branch off from my uncle's barbershop just because I knew too much. I knew what was going on. I watched my uncle teach me do it. And then, when I go and get third-party insights, it all relates. And I said, you know what? Maybe it's time. And so I got a credit card and I started swiping on it and I opened up my first barbershop, 3-chair shop, appointment only. And it was me, my friend Ethan, and another business owner at the time.
And that was in Utah, right?
That was in Utah, yes.
Was it Mill Creek side or was
it was in Mill Creek.
Okay.
Yep, it was in Mill Creek, and it's not by the original Mill Creek location right now. It's actually like a street over, just literally street over right there, and it was an office space. Similar to this, we just ripped out the carpet, put tile and popped up stations, put up mirrors, blocked out the windows, put on the thing, appointment only. And then we had 3 guys in there, me, my friend Ethan, which is the other owner of Savant Barbershops and Savant Grooming, and another business owner of mine. We were in there just doing just appointment only. And then, things started like, we're like, should we renew this contract or should we stay? And next thing you know, the state came and was like, hey, we're actually going to tear this down. You cannot renew your contract. We're like, So then we went right across the street where Mill Creek Commons is.
Yeah.
It's the city hall right there. Big old building blasted up right there. And now that's where we stay. And, it's just me and Ethan now, from 3 partners to now 2. And now we're running with it. So
awesome. And I think when you mentioned early on with the Mill Creek location, which other locations do you guys have across like Utah?
So we have the Mill Creek location that's been there for 6 years. We just renewed our contract there for another, we got another 10 years there. And then about 3 years ago, I branched out to my hometown, Magna, Utah. Really, really small city. It was a township, but now it's growing and now it's becoming a city. I born and raised, and I lived there for about 22 years and then moved out So I was there my whole life, and I was like, you know what? Looking around here, great clips, the little mom and pop shop. I was like, you know what? It really needs some spice to it. And so I took my talents over there, opened up Savant Magna, and then 2 years after that, my business partner Ethan, he opened up Savant Bountiful Barbershop. And that's kind of where we're at right now.
Okay. I actually love the fact that you mentioned, you're traveling from Modesto, California, New York, and across America as well. There's a saying I love like talking about, especially on the specific podcast, which is, your network eventually is your net worth as well.
100%.
Right? And so I feel like I've seen a lot of your videos, and I've seen how, you've immersed yourself in the public face and so forth as well. How important would you say then networking is in order to try and escalate yourself to the next level and then to the next level? Because right now the vision is great,
right,
and right now the business is actually booming as well. But I know from what I've seen, you're not actually complacent. What are how important is networking to take you to the next step?
Man, I honestly, networking is everything. You can have no education and be able to network with somebody that can actually help you. And that's what that is a lot of just talking face to face to people. Social media is such a valuable asset to the game now. Reels and TikToks, they actually push your work to get better insights. And so as soon as you can break that code of like just popping up the phone and be like, yo, I'm Mark with Savant Barbershops, right? Stuff like that. That really is what pushes the drive. And then next thing you know, you get a cold DM, or you get the guy that's have the barber expos, the Super Bowl barber expos, and he's like, look, man, I need you out here. Can you come and attend? Oh yes, absolutely, no questions asked. I'm there because I know that the $1,000 plane ticket is actually $1 million gem piece that I'm getting to.
I wish I was a dropping bomb thing when I watched
ding ding ding. Oh, that's right, baby. That's right. So like, you look at $1,000 plane ticket and it's like you get $1 million worth of info, but you got to get out there. You got to network. You got to get into the network of people that your industry's in.
I absolutely love that. The reason why I love that as well is it's not necessarily how much you know, but it's definitely who you know as
100%.
well. And so not only is your network your net worth, but you're literally one handshake away from a completely different lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And that's one of the things I've realized because, when I first came here, if you just think about Instagram, like just starting like in 2010, it was just like, hey, that's my lunch today. That's my friend and that's my family. It's now become one of the biggest business tools, not only in America, but throughout the entire world, because you literally can get a connection through a DM. It can change your life as well.
100%. I love that.
So now I want to talk about, although we spoke about loyalty and how just men love their barbers, how do you maintain customer loyalty and satisfaction, especially within such a competitive industry like barbering?
Absolutely. To remain loyalty is just to be available. I always preach this to my barbers, especially the new guys. Like, if you're getting that text message and it's 7 p.m. at night and the doors are closing and the dude's like, hey man, like I really enjoyed how your haircut was last time. Do you think you get me in? I won't be able to make it at like 7 when the doors close, but I can get there. I customer loyalty runs deep when you're like, you know what, bro, I can stay till 7:30 to get you. That's no big deal. And then that guy kind of sits there and he realizes like, wow, this guy worked, 10 to 7, but he's willing to cut my hair at 7:30 at night because I don't get off until 7. I got to get over there. And he's willing to cut my hair after a long day, even though he's having a long day. So the loyalty runs deep. I think, being able to give back to the community and showing that, doing events at the shop in each community, going to the parades, throwing out footballs to the kids, interacting with people like that in your community is building that loyalty before you know it. Not including, the loyalty programs that we do offer, booking 5 haircuts receives $10 off.
Oh, wow.
Kind of stuff like that. When the system recognizes that, this guy has been with you for 10 haircuts, that on that 10th haircut, it's free. Well, yeah, it should be free. 9 times $35, $40, you're at $500. You can give that guy a free haircut. He'll come right back,
100%.
Stuff like that, working and not necessarily trying to be the celebrity barber, but being the celebrity in your community.
That's powerful. I love that a lot. And I think, now that you mention that, you were thinking out the box. You were like, I think it's more like working smart than it is actually working hard. Of course, working hard is there, but like doing all these different stuff that people would not be doing, getting out your comfort zone, which in your case seems actually more comfort.
I like it. I always like to say, get used to getting comfortable in your uncomfortable situation. Get comfortable with just being uncomfortable. Have those tough talks. A lot of times that will open up the door for the next opportunity. You got to have those tough talks.
100%. Now, barbering, what would be the best measure of like metric to try and like determine a successful like barber? Like what can measure that?
I think what measures a successful barber is, having that schedule pre-printed, opening up your phone and looking at your schedule and understanding that you have 10 haircuts on the day and that you're printing your own money. You just got to show up and execute yourself. I feel like measuring yourself as a barber as, being clean, sanitary, punctual, on time, leaving late, showing up early, taking that last haircut in the pecking order of the shop, he goes up and he goes up and he goes up. And then, you're the next one, but it's like 7 p.m. Instead of being like, it's 7 p.m. I got to get out of here. It's like, yeah, I'm about to get 11. I'm about to get 12 today. You stay right there. I'll be right with you 1 second. That's what measures you as a successful barber, looking at your schedule and being a week to 2 weeks booked out.
Wow.
Not necessarily having to post your schedule on your story. Hey, I got openings at, 10 a.m. and 11 a.m., 12, come hit me up. When you can just measure yourself with just knowing that people are booking your time slots that are available, even with price raises and whatnot. You build it, they'll come.
Mm-hmm. And then, which actually kind of leads to the same question, very similar. Then what would set, because there's always good in every specific industry, but then there's always a small percentage of great and elite, So what are those specific components that would actually define or set apart a good and a great barber? Because the accolades you've won and the people that you've cut hair, you're at the level where I would consider you a great and elite barber. What would determine or set apart between the two? What are those specific things?
I think, having a routine, waking up at 5 a.m. ready to go, making sure that your morning routine is ready. Maybe you hit your workout, you're pumped. And then you get into the workspace and your attitude and your vibe is there. They definitely can feel, if you woke up at 9:30 and you got to be to work at 10, the boogers in your eyes and stuff, the grogginess, like slow pace, people can feel that. I think what separates yourself is being able to be ready to go right when shops open, separating yourself from the averages, carrying a high price point. On Saturdays, I only do $100 haircuts. I cannot do anything less than that. The reason being is because I have $100 worth of stuff at home. I need to be with my family, my kids. And if I can't make a sacrifice, I can't make a sacrifice for $35. Mm-hmm. I'm not discriminating on the $35 haircut, but being able to build from 35 to 50 to 60 to 70 and still keeping those high-end clients rolling. I definitely think that separates you because that person has paid you from $20 to your next jump to $40 to your next jump to 60, and the guy won't leave. Why? Why won't he leave? You're trying to shoo out the turds you're trying to weed out the turds. They don't go. They don't leave. So I think what separates it is just being punctual, available, and having good energy will really separate when someone comes in, stinks, someone has bad breath, maybe smells like marijuana, whatever it may be, people can feel that. And then they're like, are you really worth that? Are you? Like, health is wealth. Are you healthy? Are you ready to do this full time, 100%? Because if you're not, we can tell by, showing up at 9:55, maybe showing up at 10:15. My first cut starts at 8 a.m. I'm there at 7:30 a.m. Mm-hmm. Cleaning the shop, taking on tasks that like you would think that I would delegate to barbers. Hey, I need you to mop, and I'll do it. I'm the owner.
Leading from the front.
I'll do it because when I leave, the expectation is, well, Mark would have done it, so I need to do it.
Exactly.
Right. And so I don't ever like to have that delegation where I'm like, hey, you got to do this, you got to do that, you got to do this. I'll do it to lead by example. And then when I ask them to do it, it happens because they know that I'll do it. Right. But when I'm not there, I need them to do it because that's what the team is about.
I love that.
That's what the team's about. I don't want to be that guy that's like, oh, Mark always wants me to do this and that, but he's never in the shop. And,
Exactly.
And he's never around, or I can never get insight from Mark because he's not here. I'm on the floor. I execute haircuts. I critique haircuts. I help people get better at haircuts. You know, that's what separates that, I believe.
Oh man, I love that so much. So I've been doing door-to-door sales for a while. I did pests from like 2019, 2020, 2021. I switched from there to doing solar. But at the time I was doing my internship in New York, but we decided to kind of like just go like for the solar field as well. And so I noticed as well, especially in the specific field, what people want to quickly do is get to this next level of management, because at that point it's easy to delegate and stuff, because you don't want to do the scruffy kind of work as well.
Right.
And now in solar it's a little different, because usually if you're in management you just end up closing deals, which means like the door to door isn't as common. It's a rare occurrence as well, which can sometimes create feelings of animosity to those that are, setting the leads for you.
Absolutely.
Because it's just like he thinks he's like,
Above and beyond.
above and beyond.
Yeah.
And I noticed as well, like some of the greatest leaders are the ones that are actually in the trenches with those that they hired as well. And
Absolutely.
that makes a massive difference, because if you see somebody like just sweating, you're like, man, I can do the extra mile.
Yes.
Because Mark's doing it.
Yes.
So I can do it.
Absolutely.
Mark's been doing this thing for 10 years, so I can definitely do that as well.
100%.
So which leads to my next question. When you look for hiring people, like to do barbering within your shops as well, what are the specific criteria that you look for and you see in those that are potentially prospects to work with you?
Absolutely. I love it. I definitely think, in our industry, we definitely have a niche, so we can't just hire anyone. Unfortunately, you have to have a state of Utah license. So I'm already limited to people.
Oh, you have to have a driver's license from Utah?
A state Utah barber license.
Okay.
Barber
All right,
license.
all right, okay.
So I can't hire anybody that can't present that license, and then I have to go and verify it. So that already niches me down to a select group of people, and so I tend to work with a lot of new barbers fresh out of school. And I like that because I could groom them to what I expect them to be and the expectations in the barbershop. It's really hard to hire someone that's been shop to shop, because they have the shop to shop tendencies. Not only that, but they also come with ego, right? And so I like to say I'm looking for a grinder, not a hitter. A hitter is someone that can do the most flawless fade, enhancements, designs, the works, the beard enhancement, the haircut's on fire as he's cutting it, and he walks around like, I can show up when I want, I take lunch when I want, I book the haircuts that I want, I'm a $50 barber, no less. Those people drive me insane, right? I love the person that's coming out of barber school that says, Mark, let's do this, I need help, let's do this, man, let's see your haircuts, wow, you need some work. Are you okay with taking some constructive criticism? Are you willing to be coachable? Can you show up on time? Can you leave late? Can you perform great customer service? Because, at the end of the day, if someone has great customer service, they might get away with a mediocre haircut because the guy or the girl comes into the shop and they're feeling vulnerable. They're talking with their therapist. Barbers are therapists.
That's my next question.
We just don't know it, right? So like a lot of times, like having good convos, having a good service, throwing the hot towel on the neck and shaving the neck and be like, look, man, I would love to see you next time. Just book with me. People that are willing to grow and not like shut down into a shell. Those are the people I'm looking for. That's who I want to hire. And not only that, but then they also come with a lot of like they need the info. Mm-hmm. So when they see me doing things, I can literally rub shoulders and they'll start taking on what I do instead of like trying to rub shoulders with another 10-year-old barber that I hired and they're like, look, man, I ain't answering no phones today. I'm like, bro, they're asking for your name. They want to know if you're in the barbershop. Can you talk to them? Instead of me talking to them for them, someone that's who I like to work with. That's it right there.
And I like that you mentioned that, which, when you spoke about a therapist, it was going to be like my next question as well. So I want to kind of like go into that. It's known like barbers are some of the best listeners and
Absolutely.
some of the greatest therapists, because usually when you go there, you find just sometimes a group of men that just want to talk. And it's a place where people usually open up as well. Now, why I'm speaking about this is, has there been a story of a client that maybe you've come across that has positively like impacted like you heard from? Can you share any of them if you want to?
Absolutely.
Without obviously names.
Absolutely. I have one mentor that he probably doesn't even think he's my mentor, but I met him about 7-8 years ago, and car dealership. Right? Car dealership, and a group of guys I grew up with in Cypress High School, same graduating class. And, some dropped out, some graduated, some end up getting their GED. And, I'm just trying to get through school, making sure I graduate, impress my mom. And, I didn't know what I was doing. And next thing you know, these guys started selling cars. And they're like, look, man, can you get me in? I'm like, yes, sir, I can get you in. And then I got my first $100 haircut. And I was like, whoa, this guy literally paid me $100. I'm like a year in. Right? I'm not even, maybe 2.5 years in. He's like, look, man, if you can always just cut my hair, I always have this $100 for you. I said, you got it, bro. Every time, you got it. And then next thing you know, he got too busy. And so he's like, hey, do you think you can come to my house? I said, yeah, man, you always treat me okay. He's like, do you think $100 is all right? I said, yeah, I'm not too good for $100. I'll come to your house. Like, we're graduating class. I love what you're doing. You're killing it. And he ends up getting into a higher stake in the business that he's working at the car dealership. And so, he started asking me, this is when I was single, and, he's like, yo, we should hit the clubs after, we should go and get after it. And I was like, let's do it. So he's like, I have the limo pulling up. And I'm like, the limo? You have the limo pulling up? What's going on? Like, he's like, yeah, we're just going to hop in the limo. We're going to mob out to the bars. I said, cool, let's do it. So, me and him get in the car, and we mob out to the bars. We get out of this. I'm like, man, this guy is doing the thing, and next thing you know, he calls me back up for the haircut again about a week later. It's every week, $100, $400 a month.
Wow.
And
of one client?
one guy, right?
When was this? Which year was this?
Probably about 2016.
Okay.
About 2016, 2017.
Yo, even today, $100 for one client is a lot of money.
I'm not too good for $100 ever. I'll take $1 out of your pocket, right? I do not care. And so, I'm cutting his hair. He's like, 1 second, bro. My boss is calling. I said, pause. This is why we're at the house. Your time, bro. This is your time. If we're at the barbershop, I'll kick the phone out of your hand. You pay me the price, we're here. Boss walks in, and he's like, what's going on here? And I'm like, I'm not saying anything. He's like, oh, this is my barber. He's like, this is your barber? He's like, yeah, he don't miss a hair. He's like, what? Comes in, gives him paperwork. He's like, my name is Casey Waterbury. And I said, nice to meet you, Casey Waterbury. He's like, I've been having some tough times with the hair, and, I would love for you to cut my hair. I said, it. Here's my number. Hit me up when you need it, right? Week goes by. I go back over to the guy, and he's like, hey, we're going to go out again. You down to go out? I said, as long as I can crash here. If I can crash here, I can go out. He says, cool. Once again, little did I know, this limo wasn't coming from the barber. It was coming from his boss. We get in the car, and we're talking with the driver, and the driver's like, hey, what do you guys do? And we're like, oh, we're car salesmen. And I'm just quiet. And he's like, so what about you? What do you do? And I'm like, oh, I'm a barber. I cut hair. And, and he's like, you're a barber? And I was like, yeah. He's like, wow, that's nice to know. Like, where do you cut hair? I was like, Savant Barbershops. You should come check me out. Start advertising myself a little bit. And then right after that, the next day, Casey Waterbury texts me and says, hey, can you come over to cut my hair? I said, absolutely. Well, that's the boss, and that's the coworker. And so I go over there and I cut his hair, and he's like, wow, I've never had a haircut like this. Like, you grabbed my ears, you grabbed my eyebrows, you were doing the nose, you did the straight razor, a skin fade. This is all in the house. I don't get this where I was going. Boom, $300. And I said,
off one job?
Off just one haircut, 45 minutes. And I'm like, wow, like, what are we doing here? Like, what are we doing here, right? And so, I'm like, look, man, like, whenever you need the haircut, just holler at me. I would love to service you, And so he's like, I'll see you at the shop. I said, absolutely. You know where to go. Here's the website. And if you have troubles, I can put you into the VIP slot. So I created my own VIP slot, which was 7 to 8 p.m. We closed at 7. So, but I opened that on my calendar because I knew that either the coworker or the owner was going to book that VIP spot. So if I couldn't get to the house and they had to get into the barbershop, 7 to 8 p.m. was there for the $100 guy or the $300 guy.
That's amazing.
So then next thing you know, he's like, hey, can you come to the shop? Can you come to the shop? Boom, got him in the shop, got him into the shop. Now it's been probably about 5 years where I just cut his hair at home. But I opened up that slot to the VIP pricing so I can start attracting those high-end clientele. And then, it's his boss's boss and then the Toyota owner. And then, it just kept on going and kept on going. And now, we kind of honed into the higher ups where these guys don't care what they pay as long as I show up on time, I get it done in a timely manner, and it's exactly what they want. And they'll pay me.
That's so powerful. And speaking of that, I'm glad you shared that story. I wasn't expecting that form of answer, but that was perfect. And speaking of these high clients that pay so high, from the stories that you mentioned, seems like they come up with the price. You never ever come up with the price. It's like they just end up giving what they feel was worth the specific barber, right?
Absolutely. And what's funny about that is you're 100% right. In fact, I just cut his hair 3 days ago. And I haven't received the invoice. But the last thing I'm going to do is ask for $100. The last thing I'm going to do is ask him for $100 because I know it's going to come around. It's going to come around, and it's probably going to come around with some tax on it. Oh, man, I totally forgot. Cha-ching.
150 or something like that.
Yeah. No big deal. I'm not going to say a word. It's going to come back,
I would assume someone's going to ask in the comment section by the time this thing released, did you get your payment? And what was it? Okay.
Yes.
Now, speaking of that, we can see, obviously, you're extremely diligent. You take pride in the work that you do as well. What advice, then, would you give somebody that's either going to Paul Mitchell or one of these schools or even just want to start? What advice would you give them from what you know now and the experience that you've gained over these years?
It's definitely not an overnight success. This stuff happens as you gain hours, as you get your name out there. It doesn't happen tomorrow. It didn't happen to me tomorrow, but it will come, and you just have to be patient. Jumping to that next step too fast can hurt you. And in fact, with being an owner of 2 shops, working on my 3rd shop, I can definitely see people like, oh, if Mark can do it, I can do it. Yes, you can. But don't speed to it. Allow that journey to be there. Take every step into consideration. Look at the overall picture, the liabilities. Get into the shop, work hard. Accept the walk-in. Do something that a lot of barbers don't like cutting long hair, even though they're trained to cut long hair. Cut the long hair. Take the kids' haircut. Build relationships with those guys. I have probably about 4 to 5 kids right now that are about 18, 19. Mm-hmm. And, they're paying me a good price, but it's because I was cutting their hair at age 8. 10 years, I was watching these kids kind of grow up. And that's the journey I love the most. Someone could pay me $100 for a haircut, $300. They can fly me out to Idaho and give me $2,000 like I have received before. But that's not the overall aspect of things. Be able to understand that you have to have a full schedule to be able to proceed with things. Develop your systems to where you're booking your clients, rebooking them at checkout, so that way you do have that printing paper, and then you can start being like, I need to go get more education. I need to go do these classes. Mark, are you teaching a class soon? How can I get more knowledge? It's not an overnight success, and I think that it comes with time, but you definitely have to understand financial situations as a barber. You're a 1099 contractor. Maybe go take a financial course to understand what an LLC is, or an S corp, or C corp, or if I'm going to even generate enough money to put it into something like that. Try to get away from just the fast cash. I'm going to go spend it on McDonald's. I'm going to go do this. I'm going to go do that. Really start understanding finances before you start trying to jump so quick where you could fall.
100%. And speaking obviously of that, I had a quick question. I don't even know how, if somebody were to work for you in your barbershop, do they get paid hourly or do they get paid per client? How does that work?
Yeah, so in the barbershops nowadays, there's 2 ways of really kind of, there's the hourly rate. that starts attracting a certain style or a certain barber. We actually do commission based.
Okay, that's awesome.
So we do commission based where sky's the limit, and everybody starts at a general commission. And then after time, as the system reports back to us, as we see your ethnic and how you present yourself, there's always room for growth. We'll drop your commissions and drop your commissions. In our shop, we're commission based and we don't touch your tip. So, someone will be like, hey, can I Venmo you for the tip? A lot of times, when I hear that, I'm like hoping the barber says no, because that's just another thing that you have to go and calculate, and take that into consideration. I would rather you charge a transaction, a $35 haircut, maybe you do the beard and eyebrows and it ends up being a $45 haircut.
Yeah.
But as the transaction grows, your tip grows. So I really try to make the barbers understand that they're allowed to tip you right here. It's going 100% to you.
Okay.
I don't touch your tips. So that makes the barber work for customer service. That makes them like, okay, I'm going to wipe them down really good. I'm going to shave everything. I'm going to do the works. I'm going to get everything. Hopefully I can get that $10 tip. Hopefully I can get that $20 tip, because before you know it, when I go back and look at things, people are tipping just as much as the haircut price. So, when the services are a little bit lower, they tend to tip you a little bit higher. When the services are up high, they're going to tip you a little bit lower. I like to have that happy medium to where I'm not price gouging my barbers, but also the overhead gets taken care of.
100%. The reason I actually even asked that was going to lead to my follow-up question, because I feel it can also bring some form of complacency if people are all like in the same hourly job, because you get other people that may bring clients that are going to be tipping $100 and you get others that are going to do like a mediocre job. So it avoids that form of complacency.
Yes.
You say that as well. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And there's another way that barbershops run things. It's like a flat rate. You pay weekly, like $200 a week. Every week. At the end of the week, it's $200 to the owner, $200 to the owner. The reason why I don't like doing that is because I get to see, if I had a flat rate, I just see the flat rate every month. I don't have any room for growth. So when, the lease hits a year and the lease goes up, my money starts getting tapped, meaning, okay, so the rent went up $50, $100, but then I renewed my lease and now I agreed to a 2% increase on rent. And now, I'm paying such and such and I have to go up. I have to bring that booth rent barber over and be like, hey, so like your price goes up. Price is going up. I got to charge you more to make overhead happen. They're gone. They skedaddle. No, I'm out. And a lot of times booth rent barbers typically are the hitters, the barbers that have the clientele already generated, to where that's a good thing for the barber is to get on a booth rent at a certain point in time. But we don't offer that because our leases escalate. And if it's escalating, then the money gets tapped and then I can't make overhead.
Exactly.
So that's kind of like, commission is always good. So when it's a holiday, when it's spring break, when it's graduation, if the barbershop's busy, the barber is busy. If the barber is busy, the barbershop is busy. But when it's slow, the barbershop is slow and the barber is slow. So what are we going to do to get busier? And it's my responsibility and the barber's responsibility to get it busier, to get it in. And once it's busy, it's like everyone's having a great day, right? But then when it's slow, it's like, okay, so what do we do? You know what I mean? So it's everybody's responsibility when it's on commission, instead of just, when it's a holiday and you're on booth rent, the barbershop's busy, but I never see the busyness because I have a flat rate. So if it's Easter, for instance, right, and it gets busy, the barbers are busy, but the barbershop just makes a flat rate income still.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's kind of,
that actually makes sense.
Once you can scale it and understand the scale, that's what's rewarding. I love being able to scale something and then execute it.
It's funny. I'm glad you explained that, because in my mind, I was just thinking it just about like work ethic and just complacency and all these different stuff. But when you start putting in perspective overheads and you start putting in perspective like just clients coming in and so forth, it actually it means more than what I was actually thinking as well. So the reason I also like the whole commissions thing. So when I got married, my wife and I, we got married in Idaho. Then we moved straight back to like Georgia because we were doing like sales around there. However, when I was doing pest at that time, she wasn't at Olive Garden, but she was so good because she was working both at the bar and also like as a server, but she was making literally like 1,000 a week straight off tips because she literally had like clients that were her regulars that would often come, even if they would just get a normal drink, they would tip like 20 to 50 bucks
Yeah.
just for a drink.
Yeah.
Because that relationship was built then. And I wish people understood the value of relationships, you know, how important like those are as well. And from the experience that you've mentioned, do you have any other like experience you want to, or like the importance to stress of how important relationships are in any field, especially in your field?
Well, yeah, absolutely. When someone first walks into the barbershop and you can't greet them, you know, that relationship is done. It's kind of like a first impression. You're going on a date, and your first impression with that girl gots to be superb. And that's kind of how it is when in the barbershop for us, we take walk-ins and appointments. So people are walking in the door that we have never serviced before. And that's like my duty. My duty is to bring in new clients because yeah, there's turnover. Someone's going to get a haircut and be like, don't want to go back there, right? It happens, right? And especially when you get the new barber or when you get the apprentice on. And so the goal is to greet the person walking into the business that's willing to pay you.
Yeah.
That's already setting that relationship up. You can greet someone one-on-one. Hey, yeah, I can take you right here. Have a seat. Boom. He's already feeling confident. But when someone's walking into the door and walking in and you're like, oh, I don't know how to cut that hair, I'm going to the back. That relationship's done. That person's going to turn around and walk out too. So it's just the confidence. Confidence will build the relationship. Absolutely.
Okay, I love that. I love that a lot. Looking back from obviously your journey, 2015, coming out of high school with your uncle and so forth, and where you're at right now, what do you think would have helped you had you known what you know now back then as well?
Yeah, man, I was definitely that barber where I take my cash and run straight to the store with it, spend all my money in one spot. You know, I'd go and get La Frontera burrito, some other burrito, and
Drive
blah,
to
blah, blah.
Vegas.
Yeah, man, I would go to Wendover, gamble, you know, fast money as a barber, fast money, you know, and my...
Because it's cash, right?
Yeah, man, like you see this, you're like, whoa, I'm not going to touch this for a week. And next thing you know, you're like, there's $1,000 in cash. Where are we going, right? What I wish I knew when I was young in the game is my finances. I wish I... took my taxes seriously. I wish I got into an S Corp or an LLC quicker. I wish I got a business account sooner. So then that way my finances are all under control. So when I need to get a house or when I needed to go and get a car, it happened like that. I ran into a lot of problems where, I'd go to the bank and be like, hey, I need to get financed for a car. They're like, okay, show me your bank statements. Show me what you're doing. You're a barber. You're 1099. Yeah, show them everything. And they're like, but when you show me these bank statements, I see McDonald's, I see Subway, I see it all. You got Wendover ATM transactions, but there was nothing separating the personal to the business side of things. So when I gave it to the underwriter's like, dude, you're like negative $100. How do you think you're gonna afford this car? And I'm like, dude, I make money. Like I make money, I can pay for this car. They're like, no. According to these bank statements, you can't afford anything, in fact. And I'm like, what? So I started talking and, where I came from, they didn't have the knowledge to give to me to critique and correct this. But as I learned, talking to certified public accountants, trying to file taxes, they're like, why are you filing taxes, bro? You make cash. And I'm like, yeah, I need to show them that. They're like, you're claiming your tips? Absolutely. I made $20,000 in tips this year. Put that on top of the total. Bro, tips are non-taxable. Not right now. Put that bad boy on there. I need to show income. They're like, you're a psychopath. So then, I sat there at the CPA and he's like, dude, you need to get a business account and you get a personal account. You need to put all your money into this business account and then you could transfer out to your personal account. Use your personal account to take care of stuff. When you go and get applied for things, when you need to get financed for things, give them your business account. And so after about 6-7 years, I started understanding like, wow, I have a kid on the way. I need to get a house. I can't live with mom. Like, I'm 22 years old. I need to get out of mom's house. So, I talked to the underwriter. I asked him exactly what I needed to do, got all my ducks in a row, took 2 years, gave them all my paperwork. They're like, okay, you can afford a $250,000 house.
Boom.
And I'm like, wow.
Boom.
And that was about 5 years ago. So when I was looking at houses, they were pretty decent. So I'm like, okay, how do I leverage this to 275,000? She's like, oh, well, maybe, do you have any depreciation? Do you have what's your assets like? What's depreciation? What's this and what's that? And I said, okay, well, I have a barber chair and I have 10 barber chairs. And she's like, okay, that's depreciation. So she threw that on top of now I'm looking at $275,000 houses. I was like, okay. So, I looked around, and this is when the market started escalating a little bit. And I was like, uh-oh, I got to get out of the city. I can't afford a house. I don't have 350,000. I only have about 250 to 275. So I took myself to Tooele County, around the mountain. From here, it's probably about 50 minutes, 40 minutes in Stansbury Park. I found my first house, and I bought it for,
Stansbury Park,
Utah. Yep. And so I bought my first house over there about 6 years ago.
It's a nice area, man.
5 years ago, and it was about 250,000, and I sold it for about 475,000. So, and then that's when I started seeing quick, fast money, and I'm like, I need to be a realtor. And then I was like, no, I'm gonna hone into what I know here. And so that's what I wish I knew early on, because it wouldn't have took me 7 years to understand. Buying the gold chain and the pinky ring with fast cash was cool until I couldn't prove that income to the underwriters, to the lenders. That's what I wish I knew more.
And do you think there's a lack of financial literacy within the industry because of the fast cash? Because it's cash, and cash is so tempting. That's why it's much better to just store it somewhere. Because if you see money, you're like, I wouldn't mind a double animal style.
That's right, baby. I wouldn't
mind raising gains.
That's right.
I wouldn't mind going to Vegas. Just
Hell yeah. That's right.
So do you think there's a lack of financial literacy within the field? Because sometimes you mention all these S Corp, CPA, accounting. And those are so important, because if you fully can understand that, whoa, I can actually afford a home if I can try and show within my tax return. So is there a lack of it? And how bad is it?
There's a big lack of financial literacy in the barber world. I wish there was more in the barber schools. There should be at least half of the hours. They only need 1,000 hours there. Where when I was an apprentice, I had to make 1,250 because I wasn't in an actual school. I definitely think 500 of those hours needs to be one-on-ones with certified public accountants. I definitely think so, because on my end, I'm the financial literacy in my building.
I love that.
With 30 barbers. I told this one guy, this is how you have to do it, got into it. And then he started asking me all these questions. I said, where are you getting this info? Like, this is nothing I've ever heard about. Do you have a CPA? He's like, no, this is what my homie is saying. Bro, can we not do what the homie is saying? Can we get to an actual person that has the leverage, that actually studies this? And so, within the Savant Barbershops itself, we have a CPA that we send to as when people start asking those questions.
Is that for all the employees and everyone? Okay.
Yep. And my business partner, Ethan, his grandpa was actually, the youngest CPA in Utah, age 15. He's 75. Right. So this was
he's the emeritus, man. This guy was a CPA for Brigham Young.
Dude, right? He saw so much stuff. And this was before regulations of you have to have 2 years of college and you have to have this and 4-year degree and all that. He got into it really quick, and he's a genius with the 1099s. He really knows how to leverage it. And so maybe he's not the best community person, but it's because he's dealing with, $1 million accounts all the time. And I always tell the guys, here's my CPA, message him 45 times. He's going to message you back, but don't think that you can't go and message another CPA. Don't think that you can't go to who your friend's using, because that knowledge is very valuable. I can get you off the road. I can get you a little bit where, you have your business account now. You went to American First and got your business account. I can definitely help you with that. But then now you got to start learning how to leverage accounts and have, your tools being taken out of your business so you can write it off, and being able to take care of your gas mileage on your business instead of your personal, and giving yourself a salary. I talk with my guys all the time, and speaking of tax season, it's here. And a lot of these guys are like, what do I do? I said, you got to start sectioning your expenses and your write-offs and what you use and what you don't use. And they're like, what? I have to do that? And I'm like, yeah, this is what you signed up for. They're like, well, do you do that? And I said, yeah. Do you have QuickBooks? Do you have anything like that that is calculating your ins and your outs and your, people are like, I'm gonna go do a house call. I'm gonna go make a quick $100 haircut. And then they deposit that into their personal account. And that should be going into their business account, right?
Yeah.
And so then at the end of the season comes, they're trying to do their taxes and they're getting hit with personal taxes because they're still taking income in their personal taxes or their personal account. They didn't switch it over to their business account. So now they get hit with more taxes and they're like, bro, how is it possible? And I'm like, it's possible. You need the right resources. So now, 4 or 5 guys in the shop are at that point. They're like, let's do this. I need to write estimates. I said, yes, you do. You need to log into the IRS and send your estimate. So then that way, at the beginning of the year, you don't have $12,000 in taxes being owed to Uncle Sam, $20,000 in taxes to Uncle Sam.
It's always the small details, right? That all just accumulate over time.
Yeah, man. They're like, Mark, you're paying that much in taxes. I messed up. I didn't pay my estimates last year. Now I got to pay a lump sum. But I know that that's coming. It's different than not knowing and filing your taxes and be like, whoa, I got to pay that much? Yes, you do. It's because services are not taxable in the shop. They're services. So